Traditionally, agencies run on 30 to 50% margins, but in 2026, AI native agencies are hitting 70 to 90% profit.
I've seen it firsthand how agency businesses produce anywhere between 70 to 85% profit margins. And I think that is the future.
Today's guest is Romans Ivanov, founder of Big Growth Group, where he helps agencies doing 1 to 5 million in revenue, fix their operations, remove founder dependency, and scale without chaos.
We'll continue growing, we'll continue learning about what it takes to build a self-sustaining business where the founder isn't the bottleneck, where the founder isn't the key risk man, as they say.
In today's episode, we unpack what it actually means to become an AI native agency and how that unlocks massive margin expansion.
In order to become an AI native company, you actually need to become a data first company.
Why most agencies get stuck at 1 to 5 million in revenue.
They don't have the skill of either hiring the right people because they're making bad judgments. They make very short-term decisions about who to bring to the business.
The hidden bottlenecks inside agency businesses, from team structure to workflows to decision making, and how to remove yourself as the founder from day-to-day delivery without the business falling apart.
95% of agencies don't even have that. They have that in some sort of shape or form, like a diagram or my report, but they don't use it.
So if you want to build an agency that scales without you and understand how AI is reshaping the entire model, this is the episode for you. Romans, it is a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Welcome.
Jordan, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Look, I want to start off with what I feel like is the main topic of the day in the agency space, and that is, AI, automation, and kind of how we can improve our operation. And I want to start off with a quote that you made on LinkedIn. I may butcher this, so bear with me, but I think you're saying, traditional agency models are running a margin of, 30 to 50%, and agencies that are plugging AI into delivery are essentially, looking at 65 to 90% margins. Can you just unpack that for me?
Agency industry is a big industry. There are a lot of different type of agencies. And the reason I'm saying that is because sometimes I get comments on my LinkedIn or messages on LinkedIn telling me that I'm not being specific and nuanced enough when it comes to talking about not just the different problems, but also AI. The thing is that a lot of LinkedIn is full of different agencies. There are creative agencies, there are more traditional agencies, there are e-com D2C agencies, there are agencies that agency founders who've grown up together with Iman Gaji and stuff like that. So it's very important to understand first of all, like, what it is that you're actually optimizing for when you're building an agency. Is it a cash cow? Is it an exit? Is it a lifestyle business? And now we're going through this phase of agency transformation where there's quite a bit of uncertainty, just like in any other industry that is affected by AI. And over the past 2-3 months, I've met a number of founders who are very much committed to becoming AI native as a business. And I'm not just, I'm trying to talk to agency founders who are actually doing it, not just talking about it, not just using ChatGPT or like Claude for prompting, but they're actually making concrete moves with regards to rebuilding their agency business. And I've seen it firsthand how relatively, I wouldn't say large, or mid-size agency businesses produce anywhere between 70 to 85% profit margins. And I think that is the future. Although on the other spectrum, we have people like Taylor Holiday, who runs C2C, who says that his strategy is completely different. He wants to almost commoditize the service, if I'm putting it correctly, but he wants to drive the price down, offer as much value as possible, but for less cost to the market, which is interesting. However, I believe that the AI tech stack is going to get more expensive in 3 to 4 years from now. for various reasons. One of them is, I think I've heard it somewhere on, on Steven's podcast or on Dog podcast. Daniel Priestley was talking about it. The data centers they're not making return on investments right now. The investors of these data centers will wake up into 3-4 years from now saying, hey, it's like, it doesn't make any sense, so we need to rethink the business model. Anyway, it's my long-winded answer to the to your question, which is, if you want to maximize your profit as an agency owner, if you want to go and optimize for cash cow, right, and make the most amount of money, it just makes sense to move to an AI native model.
Okay. And what does an AI native model actually look like?
In plain English, it's essentially a data business. In order to become an AI native company, you actually need to become a data first company. And what that means, you need to have some sort of a database, a queryable database with your operational data, delivery data, people data, financial data, even behavioral data, if you want to take it to the next level. Then you want to have some sort of a decision layer, decision framework baked into that model, aka how do we go about deciding what good looks like when it comes to client delivery?
Mm-hmm.
What does it actually mean? What procedures or frameworks or playbooks do we use to make sure that happens? Yeah. Once you have these two in place, which is probably the most difficult, the AI tech stack and the agents, all of that is relatively straightforward. But yeah, as I said, it's data first.
Okay, so capturing the data, building out kind of a North Star of where, service delivery should move towards, and then building the tools around that to get there.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Interesting. And yeah, in terms of, the agencies that you're speaking to that are kind of doing this, how far down that process are they? Is that, fully built out, or where are they?
Most of the agencies that either we work with or we speak with have leveraged AI to enhance their delivery, or to, I would say to enhance their delivery, either SEO, whatever the services they offer, SEO, creatives, if it's performance, email marketing, if it's retention, tools, and data to enhance how they deliver and what they deliver, meaning increasing the output of the delivery team. Some of the agencies do the smart thing, meaning they build co-pilots for their team. For example, something that we're building for ourselves internally at BGG, but also for our clients, is an operations co-pilot. Our idea earlier this year, we're like, well, the AI is inevitable. It will disrupt consulting, coaching, agencies, businesses.
Yeah.
So we came up with this internal company mission to replace ourselves, to fire ourselves from our jobs, and aka building a co-pilots for operations delivery and so on and so forth. And I think this is where most agencies are a little bit stuck, because again, it requires a bunch of data and data orchestration. But it's not rocket science. This is something that can be done.
Okay. Moving on to that kind of data capture layer, obviously your main focus is operations. What are we talking about in terms of data capture at the ops level? Like, what should agencies be doing?
Yeah, very good question. Well, first of all, you as an agency, let's say you're making anywhere between 1 to 5 mil. I would say RSCP as well. Like, this is the type of agencies that we deal the most with. You gotta start with, you don't even need to start with AI or data capture in the first place. You need to start with understanding how does your end-to-end workflow flow? How do your processes flow from the very start of signing on onboarding the client all the way to, say, delivering a retainer. 95% of agencies don't even have that. Or they have that in some sort of shape or form, like a diagram or my report, but they don't use it. They've done it with someone, or they've heard that is something they need to do, but they haven't leveraged it. They haven't realized how to leverage it as a way to streamline their process or make it more clear or understandable. That is one. Step number 2 is taking the smartest person on the team, whoever holds the most amount of data about client delivery, and downloading their brain into some sort of a document or a my report or anything. Meaning, how do they make decisions when there are ad hoc, out of scope requests coming from clients, when they have to make a decision about letting go a client or on qualifying the client, or changing a strategy or delivery strategy or anything like that. A lot of the times this information is either stored by the founder themselves, because the founder used to be a technician. Like they were the Klaviyo specialists, they were the ass person, and so on and so forth. And now they've kind of graduated into a founder. Or there's a senior strategist on the team who knows all of that. This applies to operations, by the way. Like if you have a head of ops or somebody who actually is good at operations, they're essentially a key man risk if they hold all the information data. So the first thing you want to do is to sit down for a couple of hours and download all the brain into some sort of a document.
Okay. And then in terms of kind of the service delivery, what are we talking about should be kind of tracked? Is this like labor utilization and that kind of stuff on the ops side, or what is that kind of next step once you have the workflows and the kind of frameworks of what good looks like and what to do in certain situations?
Yeah, roughly speaking, if we already have some sort of workflow, let's say we have some sort of clarity about what we're delivering, and the rest of the team is more or less on the same page when it comes to the process from A to Z and what kind of outcome that we're producing for the clients. I mean, it's trivial, obvious stuff, but surprise, surprise, most agencies don't have that. Second, we have people's brain downloaded somewhere into a database or in Google Doc. Third, we essentially these are 2 major pieces. The third one, everything to do with KPIs and tracking or not, starts with understanding. If you're still dealing with a lot of humans, right, in your agency, you've got to start with utilization capacity, meaning you need to start tracking time, how everyone spends time. I actually had a very interesting case a couple of years ago when we worked with a founder who was obsessed with time tracking. He was tracking his own time in his own agency, up to the point where he went to the shower and he was tracking time. The guy took it to the next level, yeah. He eventually exited the business, but that was probably one of the most extreme examples of how to approach time tracking. But yeah, time tracking, capacity utilization, again, more or less obvious stuff because you deal with humans. It's an agency business. And then you have to do it for a prolonged period of time, let's say 1 to 2 months, to have at least some data sample to make decisions, whether it's not just about your scope, about your, about who's on the team, how do they deliver well, do they deliver on time, does it make sense, do we have the right clients in our on a client roster. There are so many things that you can do with that data, but if you don't have that in place, then nothing else really matters.
Okay. And then in terms of kind of other data capture, still on the fulfillment side, but what does that look like in terms of success? Obviously, you have, revenue driven per client, NPS scores, but what else do you dig into there? And I guess how deep do you go?
I'll give you the consultant's answer. It depends on per case basis, because different teams work in different teams optimize for different things. And there's no blanket answer. Like, what is it that you need to track or what you need to pay attention to? What you need to do is to understand your constraints and your problems better. We can track everything from time to value. How many days did it take you to deliver the first piece of value for the client, which is probably one of the most important onboarding metrics. But that value piece, what is value? What is the first piece of value? Is different from agency to agency, right? And also depends on your client's interpretation of what value is for them. All the way to say delivery margin and delivery margin optimization. Look, to individual KPIs on a delivery team and how these KPIs are aligned with, let's say, overall goals for the agency business. That is typically not in place because what early stage founders, and let's refer to anyone who's running like 1 to 5 million a year business, and they one of the mistakes that they do, they try to take isolated KPI templates or dashboards and apply that to different departments of their business. For example, they would try to come up with some sort of a North Star for delivery, especially in the retention space. It's quite a vague or subjective thing to do because it depends on the client basis. Like, you work with a set of D2C 8 to 9 figure D2C brands, and all of these brands have their own understanding of what value means, of what kind of results they want, and so on and so forth. So we've seen a bunch of agencies trying to create some sort of a system, KPI system within the delivery team, where they can measure clients' results or set some sort of benchmarks for their own delivery, which is very hard to do. Because you end up managing individual client KPIs and your own internal benchmark for what great looks like for delivery is subjective, because typically clients have their own universe or own belief system like what good looks like. So that's probably a time waster. We've tried doing this with a number of agencies as well. And all it's good for is having a sort of an internal compass for what great looks like within the team, but it doesn't mean that that's what the clients will like. That's what will be appreciated by, let's say, the market. And there is. I think this is critical. What's very important to understand is simplification of KPIs and any kind of metrics, whether it's operational or delivery or marketing, sales. I would say the number one thing that we optimize for when we start working with agencies is the North Star goal. Like, what the founder and what the business, what is they're optimizing for in terms of rev or profitability. And then might be some other strategic goals, like the structure of the business, how involved the founder wants to be, and so on and so forth. But this is where it starts, and everything else kind of cascades from that North Star goal into other KPIs.
Once you have that data layer in place and you've got these agreed upon KPIs that you're kind of moving towards, what is that next step in becoming AI native?
As a founder, you have to become AI native, or having someone on the team who understands AI ops.
Are you seeing that a lot, where people are essentially bringing like CTOs into an agency business?
Not yet, but I just had this conversation yesterday with an agency owner who's a good friend of mine, and we've spotted an opportunity where placing AI operators or AI engineers in the agency business could be the move forward for us. We don't know yet. We're just kind of looking at this as an opportunity. It's not something that I see yet, but I feel that is something where that in 2026 is gonna become more of a trend.
Okay. But at the minute, does that mean you're seeing a lot of agency owners become that kind of, or put that CTO hat on?
Yeah, it's like having an unhealthy relationship with Claude, during the evenings and the weekends.
Yeah. Okay. And then once you've kind of, put that hat on, I guess the next step is adjusting the workflows and processes for AI, right? And putting those tools into the business.
Yes. Let's call it a tool orchestration, right?
Okay.
for the sake of choosing the fancy term. Mm, Again, it all comes down to understanding what sort of constraint, what's the biggest constraint in the business. And the most common constraint among small agencies is that the founder is the key man risk, or
Yep.
they're involved in the day-to-day operations and so forth. So a lot of that stuff kind of goes through their hands. When it comes to AI tools and design, like let's imagine we've got everything in place. We've got the data layer, we've got the decision framework in place, we've got people who are more or less adaptable to learning AI tools and AI tech in the agency business. The next most practical step is to start focusing on what is it that we want to build next. Is it we want to enhance our delivery mechanism, meaning like let's productize or partially productize some of our services into like semi SaaS or micro SaaS products using AI. I see a bunch of that with the SEO agencies. They start building AI powered SEO engines where an AI can spit out 1,000 blogs a day or whatever, right? The same applies to outbounds. The same applies to ad creatives. Retention space, the design is harder to crack, but let's say we can take copywriting and so on and so forth. So having, as I said before, having co-pilots for different people on the team to help them enhance their delivery and output. And when it comes specifically to operations, having co-pilots and having the right decision frameworks for what good looks like in terms of delivery margin, time utilization, hiring, forecasting, if we need to hire, sales pipeline, marketing, so on and so forth. So data aggregation into some sort of a dashboards or some sort of visual BI that enables me as an operator, as an agency founder, to look at it and make more or less streamlined decisions about what to do next. Now, what we're building internally is, at the minute, is like we're building this co-pilot where we want to help agency founders and operators to make decisions faster, meaning we want to plug AI into the data layer that will start suggesting strategies and tactics on what to do next when it comes to operations or churn or anything else when it comes to delivering operations.
Okay. Interesting. I guess the final stage in this process, or like how are you getting to a 70, 80, 90% margin, is restructuring the team, right? And how have you seen agencies go about that kind of process?
Increasing output, fundamentally increasing output of every single team member. That is probably the biggest leverage that you have in the business. Increasing output by helping them either build co-pilots, AI co-pilots, and helping them understand how AI and or automation can help them focus on higher leverage activities. That is probably the most the biggest needle mover. What the challenge with that though is that you have to have the right people on the team who are adaptable and they're willing to learn not just Claude or any kind of LLM. they're willing to experiment outside of, let's say, billable hours to learn their role, because now everyone needs to relearn how they work and how they apply their mindset and skill sets to the same roles and responsibilities.
Does that mean that this kind of AI implementation is not top down, of like a kind of dictation of like, you must run your processes like this from CEO and CTO or whoever, and is more of also like a collaborative kind of bottom up approach to that implementation?
Yeah, obviously, the founder, whoever leads the business, needs to set an example, just like with everything else, right? And it fundamentally, it's the parent of the business, and everyone else will copycat the behavior of the founder. So they need to obviously understand and practice what they want to do with AI. But yeah, absolutely, it's a collaborative approach to everything. It needs to be programmatic, of course, but if fundamentally, if you want to, we started viewing it more or less like a play, because of the overwhelm of information tools and everything else. And once you log into X and you
Yep.
start scrolling through the feed, and then you just I go crazy. So I just put my phone away, and I was like, okay, what it is that I need to do today? Founder's responsibility is to communicate clarity every single day, every single week, every single month to the business. Like, what is it that we're doing? And the problem with again, the challenge with clarity is that founders are very much distracted by shiny objects or tools. Like, the problem stays the same. Fundamentally, it's your job to instill that clarity in the business, and it's for you to help your team to start making the transition. You gotta understand what's the point A, like what's the current reality of the business, where you want to get to ideally, and then design some sort of a roadmap or milestones for you to get there. It's like the same. The strategy and the approach mental model stay the same. It's just a question of sticking to your word and to your goals.
Yeah. Okay. What would you say to founders who have got team members who can't or won't make that adaptation to becoming more kind of AI friendly?
Mm, I mean, there's nothing to say, to be honest. Like, you'll be left behind. Like, unless you have some sort of secret sauce that we don't know about, and you deliver, I don't know, um, mm, some a service or a product that is needed by a select few in this world, maybe that's the play. But yeah, if you're not gonna adapt, you're not gonna survive.
Okay. And back to that kind of original question about, team structure. Are you seeing agencies, once they've made that switch to becoming AI native or kind of towards that end of the spectrum, are they cutting team members? Or, as you said, is it more just, keeping your current team and making them
Yeah.
more efficient and improving output?
Actually, I've seen a number of different cases.
Okay.
There are agency businesses who've scaled to 50, 60, 70 employees, and then met a major roadblock in terms of scale and management, just like many do. And then the founding team becomes sad, depressed. They go into hibernation for 6 months, 12 months, trying to rethink the business or what to do next with their lives. And then AI happens, and they're like, okay, we can try do something with AI. And I have one specific example. Actually, we did a pod with this team. It's an agency called Revenue Flow. They've done an amazing thing of turning their business into an AI native business completely. The founding team went full on AI, cloud code and everything else, and they spend 70-80% of the time building stuff. So they start approaching their agency, from a totally different perspective, like as if they're building a product, like a SaaS product, not just a service. And then I have examples of full stack D2C agencies who make anywhere between 3 to 4 to 500K a month, deciding not to let go of anyone, but they decide that their strategy is to enhance their team with AI tech stack and help the team to increase their output. They stopped hiring though, right? Because now they're in the process of restructuring the business and becoming AI native. But they're also not letting anyone go.
Okay. Would you have a preference to which path to take?
It depends on where you are. Let's say, where are we at? Are we starting a new business or are we restructuring the old model?
Let's say we're at, mid-sized agency, kind of low, mid 7 figures.
I would identify I would start with assessing my current team. We're using some sort of very simple exercise of, hey, who is there? Do we have A players, B players, C players? And then I would assess them on their ability or willingness or adoption willingness to adopt tech and AI tools. And I would think about where do I want to be as a business in the next 6 to 12 months with regards to AI adoption. Obviously, things change very fast and you can't really pinpoint the objective, but having a rough idea is enough. And then if I understand that there's somebody on my team who's not going to be willing to align with my vision for this year, then they'll probably go, whether it's now or in the next, whatever, X amount of months. And I'll be crystal clear to everyone else that from now on, their roles, now they're not service providers, they're builders for a certain period of time. Now we're building a new type of agency, and their role and responsibilities is to continue delivering the service to the clients. But in the meantime, we need to redefine their roles. The way I would phrase it, or the way I would sell it, is by connecting the vision or the idea of becoming a native agency to the fact that they individually need to evolve as professionals. And if they don't, obviously I'm not going to be fear-mongering if I'm on team, but realistically, if they don't, they'll be left behind anyway.
Yep.
So the alignment between what they want individually and what I want needs to be communicated clearly.
Okay. And hopefully they come with you, right?
Yeah.
Cool. I want to wrap up the kind of AI section now. I actually want to move on to you, because I'll be honest, like when we kind of met up, you have probably the craziest story I've heard, like in the online space. I don't know if you want to go kind of like fully into your backstory, but yeah, could we just kind of talk through your journey to kind of where you are today, and then we can start talking about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. So yeah, can you just start off? Where were you born and kind of raised, and what was that journey like to the UK?
Sure. I was born in Latvia. I grew up in a Russian family, Russian speaking city. English is technically my fourth language, although I studied English in school, but it was nothing like actual English. My dad passed away when I was 14, 15 years old from cancer, so I had to grow up quickly and in a way take care of my mom. But it was difficult. We as a family we were essentially bankrupt because my dad was the breadwinner. Then my mom and I migrated. Both of us moved to the UK, to a place called Bognor Regis. For anyone who is listening who doesn't know where it is, it's south of the UK. It used to be a very popular, I'd say, tourist spot back in the day. Then it got overwhelmed with migrants, just like me. But I didn't expect that to be the representation of England. So in the first 1 to 2 months, I was like, "What the hell? Where am I?" It's just to paint you a picture. I was probably like 18, 19 years old, something like this, and I'm kind of waking up to my own reality where I'm sitting in the bus full of other migrants like me,
Yeah.
on the way to a factory or some sort of a shift I was doing back then. I don't remember. And it was 5 or 6 in the morning. I was like, what is it going on? Like, what am I even doing?
Yeah.
It was something inside of me was looking for a desperate call out. And that's when I recognized, okay, I need to do something, although I don't know what to do. And eventually I decided to make a move to move away from the UK and go to the Netherlands. I spent my next 3.5 years in the Netherlands trying to do something better with my life. This is where I started launching freelance businesses, designing business, travel business. Nothing worked out. 3.5 years later, although one thing that I got out of it is I learned Dutch. That was my third language. Quite useful in the Netherlands, nowhere else. Then I decided also nothing's really happening. At that time, I'm like 23, 24 years old, and I'm like, nothing beats happening in my life. Let me go back to the UK. Now, this time, let's go to London. And again, I packed my bags, came to London, started from scratch. Got a job at London Imperial College as a coffee barista. And from then on, things started moving towards the direction that I wanted to. I qualified as a high performance transformational coach because that's what I was interested in. I was very much interested in human behavior, psychology. So it's like, that's gonna be my first step towards something better. And I got privileged to work with, after a while, I got privileged to work with a number of interesting people. Long story short, I got a mentor and I invested in my own personal development, and I started landing quite interesting clients, high net worth individuals, serial entrepreneurs, executives. I did that for a while. Then I moved on from that to a travel agency business. I met someone whom we started a travel business with because I thought that was going to be my way out to the rest of the world. I wanted to travel and live in different places. I was still coaching and practicing, continue running my coaching practice, and while it's building the travel agency, which started growing as well as a result of us understanding how to use social media communities to sell repackaged traveling offers.
Okay.
And from then on, my co-founder and I decided to split because she had a different vision to the business than I had. I wanted to go global and try to scale the business. But I picked up a bunch of marketing skills and I applied that to the next business, which was the digital marketing agency. And this is how I was introduced to e-com and everything else. And I found myself in the same grind and day to day like any other agency owner does. And there was a moment when I was like, "Fucking hell, it's great money, but all I'm doing, I'm spending all my life in front of a laptop. It's like there's no life to it.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do?" So a really good friend of mine introduced me to someone. So I decided to find somebody to help me with my delivery operations. When I was like, I didn't even know what was operations delivery back in the day. I was just kind of a glorified freelancer making multiple six figures with a media buying team. I was like, well, I need to build a better business. So my goal was like, let's cross that 1 million a year. But in order to do that, I need a different quality of information. That's how I was introduced to my current partner, because she came for an interview with me. I was
No way.
hiring for a
Okay.
head of I was hiring for a head of ops, and she's like, yeah, let's do it. Instead, we ended up dating. And this is where I often joke, this is how you say when senior leadership team. Yeah. Long story short, she came in, like, obviously she helped me with my delivery operations.
Yeah.
We got me out of my own day-to-day, and I was like, well, it's an interesting experience. Let's see if we can do the same for other agency founders.
Very cool. Okay.
Mm.
I want to go back to that kind of journey at the start. What kind of motivated you to keep going, and what kind of pushed you to have this drive, I guess, to kind of want more and to keep progressing up the ladder of life?
A combination of pain, psychological pain, dissatisfaction with myself, with life. The fact that I recognized that I had a massive amount of limiting beliefs and insecurities, whilst having hope, or I would say a vision that one day it will all make sense.
Yeah.
There was a moment when back in Bognor Regis, when I was like 18 or 19, I was doing these factory gigs, and literally working my ass off, trying to make some money. I shared I lived in a house, and one of my roommates, housemates, was suicidal. He's a great chap, great guy, but he was suicidal, and then on one of the on one of the walks, he told me that he was gonna end his life because he couldn't bear it anymore.
Hmm.
And I shared the same pain. I understood him because he couldn't figure out what's next.
Yep.
He was depressed. He didn't have anything. He didn't have any family. And that stayed with me for a long time, because I realized that although I lived next to the cemetery, in a box room with nothing, I could not think the same. For me, it was critically important to get out of that state of mind. So yeah.
Interesting. How has that motivation changed? Because obviously now, you're not in that situation, but you're still pushing, you're still kind of growth oriented. What is the driving factor now?
So the fuel's changed from pain and bearing life's difficulties, and everyone does. I'm not trying to say that I'm the special with my set of pains and whatnot. Everyone's going through their own level of shit. For me, the transformation or the change that I've always wanted to create is living a good life, meaning feeling good about myself as I grow, as I do things, as I build things. And that is my motivation. Now I'm driven to actualize myself to the fullest potential. And I know it may sound corny, but that is exactly what drives me every single day. I'm very hungry to learn more and develop myself and build myself as an entrepreneur. And I see that it's not coming from a set of limiting beliefs or pains or anything like that. It comes from the desire to help myself, to help others.
Interesting. Okay. And then in terms of today at Big Growth, what is the mission? And yeah, just talk through kind of the type of agencies and businesses you work with.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think for now, a part of our internal mission is to continue making money, just like any other business. Um, my partner and I are very much motivated by making a change. When we work with businesses, we're in it for transformation. And again, I'm not saying it for the sake of saying it. It's sort of I've ingrained it into my DNA, and I feel an incredible amount of fulfillment and joy when I see the change in someone else's business.
Yeah.
So that is, I would say, if it's a mission, that would be our mission and vision. We want to continue building BGZ as a way to actualize this desire and goal and objective to change businesses. We'll continue growing. We'll continue learning about what it takes to build a self-sustaining business where the founder isn't the bottleneck, where the founder isn't the key risk man, as they say.
Yeah.
And in the same time, apply AI and technology to also make it innovative and to be on the edge. I think that's also part of what we do most often, because I feel the market and the industry is full of templates and frameworks and everything else, and which is great, and no judgment in that. But there's a big part of me that wants to bring innovative ideas and solutions to the industry, and yeah, it's quite exciting.
Okay. And why that focus on kind of 1 to 5 mil as the target ICP?
Yeah. Well, originally, it's because I personally was looking to scale past 1 million in revenue with my agency business, and I was stuck in the weeds.
Yeah.
Second of all, this is where the agency owners get stuck the most. That is the revenue bracket. If you're above 5 million in revenue, you most likely have a leadership
Yep.
team, and you're already out of the weeds. So it's also aligned with our positioning and value proposition. We tried going up market and solving this problem for bigger agencies, but then we faced a number of things like longer sales cycles and multiple stakeholders, and then we know sometimes we may step on COO toes, or it's just there is eco management that I don't want to deal with at the minute. So for now, we are sticking with this ICP. We understand our ICP quite deeply on both business and psychological levels.
Okay. And then I guess my question here is, for agencies beyond that ICP, is it less of a kind of founder-led model, more of a, as you said, management team-led? Is it also more kind of M&A focused rather than, founder driving growth and that kind of thing? And yeah, I guess, can you just talk to agencies beyond the 5 mil? What do they look like?
Yeah, typically two types of agencies. Most commonly M&A, because that's, I'd say, easier to do. It's just organic growth is difficult for an agency business, most commonly. So acquiring other agencies is one of the, I would say, most effective paths if you know what you're doing, just like in anything else. I cannot speak too much to anyone who is doing more than 6-7 million a year or 10 million a year, because I do not understand the dynamics of ego management. So, not that this is the prerequisite for business growth, but look, when you have multiple stakeholders, multiple decision makers, and whatnot, and you have a leadership team, it's a totally different game. It's more about what you don't do as a founder and what you choose not to do, and it's more about how you articulate, I'll say again, clarity and strategy to your senior leadership team. So the dynamics changes a lot. So it's less about extracting the founder from the business. It's teaching the founder, or for the founder to learn not just management skills, but more so understanding how their zone of genius or a set of strengths can be utilized even more, leaning into what you know the best, and doing that. And as we see now in with content game, a lot of the agency founders who successfully extracted themselves from day to day start focusing on either content or M&A strategy, if that is the play.
Interesting. I want to ask you a couple of macro questions now. And the first one is, I think I've seen this from Hormozy quite a lot of times, where he says, like, once you get to a certain size as an agency, your goal should be to work with kind of larger and larger clients until you're kind of in the, Fortune 500 or FTSE 100 type companies. Do you agree with that as a kind of first principle?
Yes, if you want to build a great agency business with good lifetime value, with good CAC to lifetime value ratio, if you don't want to deal with 3-month contracts and retainers and churn and all of that stuff, then you have to go enterprise. You have to go up market. But as they say, you have to choose your heart. Just because you go on to enterprise level and you start dealing with big accounts, it doesn't automatically mean that now you're relieved of all the pains and problems as an agency founder. In fact, now you have to first of all learn a new set of skills. If you're not coming from an enterprise level background yourself, and typically that is the case when you have a high chance of success dealing with these accounts, because you need to either have either yourself, you're coming from working with big accounts, you work in an agency, and now let's say whatever, it's Ogilvy or WWP and one of them, and now you have the relationship, so you can now spin something up yourself, or you're so good at attracting account managers from other agencies of similar size that typically they bring their set of clients with them, in one way or another. Obviously there are contracts and agreements and everything else, but if you can't do these two effectively, then the chances of succeeding are quite slim. So that's why obviously the most common path is dealing with SMBs.
Okay. Is that a decision to be made at that kind of 5-10 mil level rather than kind of low 7 figures?
Oh no, it depends a lot.
What's that?
I also interviewed a set of founders who started as freelancers or glorified freelancers, and then they suddenly landed in enterprise level accounts out of nowhere. But typically that happened as a result of market conditions, great timing. Influencer marketing back in 2018 or Facebook ads back in 2014.
Okay. The next macro question I have is, I know something we kind of talked about before, but it's around kind of, how do you marry the two goals of scaling whilst also staying kind of, innovative and having custom led solutions? And I know this is something you're kind of thinking through for big growth as well, right? So what is your current kind of thought process around that?
Look, I'm going to be biased to my own perception of this problem and trying to solve it myself. When you're trying to innovate like a slightly better product, and I'm not trying to come up with something fundamentally different to say I don't want to do it now. I don't have the resources for it, but all I'm doing is I'm looking for two things: a much tighter positioning in the market, meaning I connect with my ICP, with my market way better than anyone else. So communication is a big part of it. So I'm spending a lot of time on content and thinking how to position much better, messaging and all of that stuff. And then second of all, I'm spending the rest of my time on the offer, especially right now as we are offering a set of different AI solutions, everything from custom integrations to more or less productized setups, core bots, cloud setups and everything else. now my number one goal is to find some sort of overall product market fit where that can become more or less scalable. I'm not too much concerned about that because I'm very much focused on building, repositioning and building a reputation within the agency AI space. And everyone seems to be an expert right now. So just like with everything else, and whenever there are shifts in the market and new things come into play,
Yeah.
1 month later, everyone's like AI or Web3.
Yeah.
So scaling and innovation. So I stopped thinking about scaling and I started
Okay.
thinking about what do we need to do to adapt to the new reality.
Okay. Interesting. I guess my next question then is probably not a good one for you, but I did want to get your kind of general thoughts on this. I feel like if you're trying to, double your business every year, it's a mess internally. And it creates a lot of chaos doing that. Obviously, there's the kind of flip side to that of like, if you don't grow, you're kind of being left behind, right? Is there, from what you've seen and like the clients that you've kind of worked with, a rough kind of annual revenue growth or profit growth target that is somewhere in the middle, which is, positive, strong growth, but also not crippling the business, crippling the leadership team and the founder, and means that you can still kind of live a good life as well?
So are we talking about somebody who's optimizing for a lifestyle?
I wouldn't say lifestyle, but I would say it's definitely like a profit focused growth rather than just kind of revenue at all costs.
Yeah, I can give you a number of use cases and case studies.
Yep.
Where that is, where it perfectly answers your question. One of them was actually one of my clients, is the shower guy, the time tracking shower guy.
Okay.
His point A when we started was he had a consulting business, a marketing consulting business, a YouTube ads agency,
Yeah.
and an e-com brand.
Wow.
And he was making, I don't remember how much, but anywhere between 40, maybe to 60, 70K a month. I was like, this doesn't make sense. You're
Across all of both, like total across the four.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
It's like, let's cut consulting, let's cut e-com, let's just focus on the ads agency.
Yeah.
He followed the advice. He started focusing purely on YouTube ad agency, put all of his effort and time into the business. Year and a half later, he sold it for all cash. He exited his position because he had a co-founder. I cannot tell you how much he sold it for, but for him it was enough because also he stacked a lot of cash from consulting and whatnot. It was a small agency business. They were doing anywhere between 1 to 1.3 million in revenue, but they had 85 to 90% margin. Yeah, hyper optimized. It was just him, his co-founder, a senior, 1 or 2 senior media buyers, and VAs. He exited his position. He went off grid. He asked me like 3, 6, 7 months later. He comes back, "Hey Roman, like I want to remove my social footprint from the internet.
Okay.
Can you remove my case study?" No problem. A second use case is actually somebody that I interviewed quite recently in Croatia, where we spoke at a agency mastermind in Croatia, and there was a guy who was running as a media buying agency, specifically managing media buying accounts, doing almost $500,000 a month with just himself and his co-founder and a bunch of VAs.
Wow.
He personally manages around 250 accounts through automation and automated reporting and VAs.
Wow.
A lot of people could not believe me, but hey, he drives very nice cars, GT3 and Brabus. So I think it's more than enough for a proof.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm. And there are cases where founders decide to bring in an MD or CEO. I mean, it's for anyone who runs a business that's doing anywhere between, let's say, 1 to 2, maybe to 3 million a year. You're not gonna find a superstar CEO. What you need to find is somebody who worked in the agency business, who was either a strategist or an operations lead, or somebody who is super hungry, and you need to push them from their business and offer them. And as long as you're syncing on individual and the professional levels, the idea is to offer them a long-term incentive.
Okay. Just to throw this back at
Yep.
you then. So you're basically saying my thinking is kind of wrong. And instead of looking at, what the revenue growth should be, it should be, what's the type of business you want to build and kind of back into it from that, back into the lifestyle and kind of other stuff. But yeah, kind of look at it from that lens rather than what
Yes,
revenue growth should we achieve.
definitely, absolutely. This
Okay.
is the pattern that I've seen across all the agency founders who've optimized either for cash cow play, meaning high profitability and time freedom, if we put it that way, or the ones who like, hey, I just want to go hard. I want to go and cross 8-figure in revenues because I want to do M&A and I just want to prove myself that I can do
Yeah.
it. So it's like, hey, yeah, I can see the differences between driving factors. Somebody
Yeah.
like these people, like 8-figure plus people, are motivated. Like, hey, I have the opportunity, I have the trajectory, I can prove myself, I can do it, and there's not a fuel in them to go and then I know that they're gonna do it because like I can almost sense their mindset and ambition. And but it doesn't mean that this group of people who like, hey, I just want to optimize for lifestyle and high profit. It doesn't mean they're less ambitious or anything like this.
Mm.
It's just both parties are very clear on what they want to do.
Mhm.
That's it. Mm.
Is there a seasonality thing to this where someone is in, camp A of lifestyle profit focus, and then, 2 years down the line, they then shift and become hungry and want to take the M&A, foot down kind of approach? Do you see that? Or is it just, focus on one thing and just build that?
Oh yeah, both. Yeah. Look, for me, it wasn't like deep focus or anything like that. First of all, I have dyslexic tendencies. I just forbid myself to say I am something, right? I'm very careful about my language, but I have dyslexic tendencies. I'm easily distracted. I have hundreds of thousands of ideas every single day. My co-founder, my partner's dad, she prevents these from actualizing.
Yeah.
And I can go in so many directions. So but there is a flip side to it. The positive side to it, I can come up with different type of solutions, creative solutions to different type of problems, and I never feel stuck with a problem because I can source different ideas from different industries or whatever I read or consume, or I can speak with you and like, oh, that's very interesting. Maybe I can apply that to my
Yep.
business. And that allowed me to go from being not having any skills to learning some skills, learning psychology, sales, marketing, launching different businesses, coaching people, running an agency business, running consultancy business, running AI business. And I used to think and feel that there was something wrong with me. I cannot stick to one thing for one reason or another. But all I did, I was like, I realized that now, retrospectively, observing my behavior and my mindset, I just felt like I exhausted the opportunity that I was in. I've done everything I could possibly do to to maximize the opportunity that I was given my resources, talent, skills, and everything else. And now the next thing that I'm so passionate and interested in, that is going to be my next opportunity, and I'm going to bring my resources into that. So that's how I view the world, is how I operate it, and that was for me. There are agency founders and info guys and girls and whatnot, and SaaS people and AI people like, hey, I'm gonna do this thing for the next 10 years because I feel like that is gonna be my leverage.
Yeah. Okay. That's
You
very
gotta,
personal, right?
yeah, it's very personal. Yeah, you gotta. I certainly believe as a founder, you need to retrospectively look at your behavior and be objective about yourself and not trying to downplay yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Okay. I want to shift lanes again, and now I want to kind of focus on, when I started following you and kind of came across you, a lot of your stuff was about getting founders out of the weeds. Obviously, I don't know if this is the same with other industries, but I feel like in the agency space is like the key issue, right, for a lot of people. Why are so many founders still kind of heads down involved in the day-to-day, especially at that kind of low seven-figure level?
Well, looking through my list. Where do we start? Number one reason why agency founders or any kind of founders are stuck in the weeds, because they choose to. They choose to, whether they recognize it or don't, whether it's conscious or subconscious. They choose to dwell and deal with the problems that they're comfortable with. In order to get out of the weeds, if that is the objective, if that is the thought that is crossing your mind, you got to learn from people who've done it. That is it. We have to go and observe how other agency founders who are operating at a different level doing it differently. However, the number one reason is, hey, as corny as it sounds, it's how you think about your business, about yourself, and the clarity you have around like where you want to be. Because there are a bunch of behavioral patterns and mindsets that quote unquote trap us in our current set of problems and situations, because it's either comfortable, because we feel needed to the business, because maybe we used to be technicians, like, as I said, meta person or whatever, creative person, retention person, and you graduated yourself into a glorified agency founder. And now it feels like, hey, I'm the king of my own little jungle. But in order to go from here to there, I would need to see, I won't say radically, but drastically change how I view myself and my business. Meaning, I no longer become the technician who holds the rails of operations, delivery, and everything else. And I'm now becoming more like a business owner or somebody who oversees the operations. And that is not just the technical, systematical change, transformation. It is also the mindset and the thinking change and the identity change. That's why a lot of times when we work with agencies, we combine both psychology, because my background in executive and high performance coaching, I know how people think about this stuff. And then Christina comes with obviously the operational background. And that is probably number one. Number two, they don't have the skill of either hiring the right people, because they're making bad judgments. They don't have a good, they don't know how to judge someone else's character. They make very short-term decisions about whom to bring to the business. The same applies to clients. They don't have the skill or process of qualifying clients, because if you've made any kind of money and you're maybe now making it between maybe 30, 40, 50K a month, now you need to think about the offer, and offer means that you need to think about pricing and qualification processes. And you cannot just continue just onboarding everyone. Same applies for the team and for the clients.
Okay. There's a lot of stuff I kind of want to dig into on this, but is a lot of kind of what you do initially almost like a therapy session of getting the kind of founder's mind clear?
Yeah, exactly. So that is the feedback that we receive quite often. I personally receive, because with Christina is way more tactical when it comes to operations. It's just, it feels like it's a business psychology process.
Yeah.
Because my objective is to rewire how they think about their business and what they want from their business in the first place. And everything else cascades from that understanding, from that clarity. If they don't have the clarity and we just apply a bunch of tactics, and look, we've had cases when an agency founder comes in and I start drilling them with that business psychology, and they're like, what the I did not expect that. I thought I was signing up for ops.
Yeah.
No, mate. Whatever, right? You're signing up for removing yourself from day to day. How we're gonna get there is our choice.
Yeah.
It's our framework. It's our methodology. Um, so we had a few instances where we've met a level of resistance towards that coaching, but then we quickly realized, okay, that these are the type of founders that we don't want to onboard
Yeah.
because they want a systematic change, but it's clear that they're the bottleneck, from this perspective.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. And then once you've kind of gone past that, I guess like North Star figuring out, what are the goals, all that kind of stuff, and you've helped out on that side of things. Now we're looking at kind of the ops. Is it starting there with kind of a time energy audit and deciding what to kind of delegate, automate, and kind of remove? Is that the next step?
Yes, we typically start with the ops audit and the founder dependency audit.
Hmm.
So it's both systems, operations delivery, team assessments. Now we also start with team assessment because a lot of times what we need to do is to understand who is the good fit for the next stage of growth of the business. If they're
Hmm.
not a good fit, we're just being super transparent to the founder. Hey, these are the people that are the weakest link in your business. So they will drag you back into delivery operations, even if we implement X, Y, Z. So we do that. And then the second part of it. So we extract data now because also with AI,
Yeah.
we now obviously plugging into financial data, operational data. We extract that data to understand what needs to be automated or what kind of data we use to build any of the AI tools.
Hmm.
And the next stage is implementation. And implementation goes alongside with consulting coaching. So if we agree that we're going to rebuild a certain part of their delivery or operations, whether it's using AI or we just realize, hey, they are very immature for AI implementation. They just need to understand how they operate themselves.
Hmm.
We build out, we look at what they have in terms of workflows, documentations, processes, reporting lines, KPIs, anything that you have in your business. We take that and we audit that as well, and then we start making decisions on what needs to be done first. A lot of times, when a 1 to 2 million agency doesn't have any kind of workforce in place, meaning they have something, as I said, but they need to completely rethink how they do delivery. Whether, let's say, it's a retention agency and they know that that is the best. They've done it. They've created it. They've been doing it for like 2, 3 years. And now these, Romans and Christina comes in the business and they're telling them how to do delivery. Because, and we're not coming from it's not that we're like, hey, do it. If you don't do it, don't complain. Although Christina sometimes says, it's like after the calls, like, they should be listening to me and then listen to me. But I understand that obviously, like, it's their business.
Yeah.
Um, but because we've seen enough of data, qualitative and quantitative data from retention agents and performance agencies, we know what great looks like, what good looks like, and what bad looks like in terms of the overall structure. And we sit down with the founder and with the second in command, with their best strategists, right? We redesign how they go about delivery. While keeping in mind their North Star for the year. Like,
Mhm.
what is it? Oh, actually, what it is that they're optimizing for, if it's freeze, lifestyle, cash go, or exit. And we help them to just start thinking about the delivery in a different way. We redesign them with them. Then on top of that, with layered organizational changes, meaning people who sits in what roles. Do they need AI co-pilots? What's in place? Do we need to start building co-pilots? Do they understand how to use the basic AI tools?
Mhm.
On top of that, sit KPIs, anything to do with delivery, client delivery operations, leadership KPIs. We do the same. We do the same for the founders. If there are multiple founders in the business, we give them roles and responsibilities. We give them frameworks for how to think about different decisions. The same applies for goals and cadence in the business. Now, what we have is some sort of foundations in terms of operational model, team model. They know what is actually happening. Now we can apply some sort of cadence, meaning what calls they have to have, what calls they shouldn't have. Same applies to the founder. Like, let's call them board meetings. Like, what is it that they need to do on a weekly basis to keep up the communication? Time tracking, utilization, all that. Obviously, all of that is given. We need time data to start making optimization decisions. So, and there are other, a bunch of other variables, whether they have a second in command, whether they have a project manager, maybe they have nobody in ops. So now we need to look into our partners and helping them source and hire an ops person.
Okay. I think you've covered this there, but I just wanted to clarify it. In terms of fixing workflows and processes, are you kind of saying you know what good looks like because you've, spoke to the experts in the field or worked with them, and then you're just comparing those to, client X in the agency space and kind of reconfiguring what they do to align with
Yeah,
the
it's
better
actually
ones?
it's been a very interesting process for us because Christina came from Fortune 500 background. She was doing exactly that, but for enterprise level companies
Mhm.
like BT, JD Sports, Arbus. Anyone who's not in the UK is like big retail companies.
Yep.
Um, and essentially, our initial hypothesis was like, well, how do we apply agile and operational frameworks
Yep.
transformation frameworks that are used in enterprise to SMBs. And that is difficult to do because all of that stuff is quite theoretical. Like, and in the SMBs, especially in agency business, you need to be hyper agile and very, you need to be hyper practical. It's not just, hey, this is the framework. It's also, hey, here's what works at your revenue stage with your structure, with your mindset, and so on and so forth. So there are two aspects to this. One is understanding the frameworks and methodologies that actually works. And our initial hypothesis was that we would take that from enterprise level and we'll change the communication and we'll apply it to agency business. That worked initially, but it was a lot of our work to translate these concepts, and we had to sit inside of the operations and be almost like fully fractional experts and
Mhm.
work alongside with the business, with the founder, with the team to implement all of that. Because we didn't have enough of quantitative data. I mean, we didn't see enough agencies to understand how to move with speed. So instead, what we did was like, well, let's just work with 1-2 clients at a time, but we'll be almost like working full time in their team, which allowed us to make the next step, to start working with more agencies in the same time and start noticing the patterns across specifically retention performance agencies. And once we realized that, oh, okay, these structures or these revenue brackets or these type of founders want to do this and they optimize for this, and this is how they approach different problems. I've also got more and more experienced with understanding their mindsets and how to overcome some of the limiting beliefs that they have with regards to like operational structure or
Mhm.
scaling business. And now we have enough of data, both qualitative, like we know what's happening inside one particular agency on a tactical and maybe psychological level, but also we work with enough of agencies to spot the pattern trends. So now when we come in, it's almost as if we're like, hey, we already know what they need to do and how they need to do it. All we need to do is to coach and mentor them through that and implement our systems. And I feel this is now like we have way more confidence in ourselves, in our frameworks because of the amount of work that we've done.
Nice. Okay. As we start to kind of round off, I want to talk about people. So obviously a lot of what you do is almost building out all charts for people, right? The question I have here is in terms of, I guess, like assuming someone knows what role they need to look for, what are your kind of first principle thoughts around hiring, incentivizing, and kind of the ongoing management of talent?
Yeah, it's a big question. Um, Well, we actually started working with somebody from Tier 11. It's an Australian-based agency. I mean, we're not working with them, with an agency specifically. We work with an individual. His name is Josh Hill, an incredible person. He's their VP of talent culture, but he's also a consultant
Okay.
specializing in hiring and recruiting. He taught me quite a bit about how to approach cultural fit and performance fit for the agency. But also, it's one of the major bottlenecks that we face at BGG ourselves, because when we come in, like if they don't have the talent bench or they don't have a talent pool, then we're a bottleneck. Like we cannot help them
Yeah.
continue growing. So inevitably, we were like, well, we need to come up with some sort of a strategy and framework there. So what we've done is we've created processes for how to go about hiring people. We created strategies. We created poaching processes and strategies. So to answer your question, um, obviously, the most common thing you need to do is to understand how good are you at attracting and hiring the right people. And in most cases, just like myself, when you're starting out a business, even if you're sub 5 mil, most likely you're not going to be that good at spotting the right talent. Also, the agency landscape is in a big need of talent supply, because there is an incredible demand for strategists and for just great talent, generally speaking, and there is not enough supply.
Yeah.
Now, especially now we're going through AI's transformation, it's even more complex. But you gotta learn 2 fundamental skills if you don't have them. It's one is being able to attract talent, any kind of talent, and we have a bunch of process. We have recruiters who prove themselves wrong. We have fractional specialists who understand how to hire people, how to attract people, how to do it in the right way. I recommend the second option in most cases. Number 3, you need to be good at poaching.
Hmm.
Most great talent is already taken by
Yeah.
other agencies. If you think about hiring people from brands and the client side of thing, it is 50-50, because a lot of times they're very smart and they understand how to build strategies, but it doesn't mean they're going to be fast. And the agency environment fosters speed and respects speed. It disrespects the opposite.
Mm.
um, and also, you gotta scan you gotta scan for character first and foremost, because especially in our day and age, all you need to do when it comes to tech stack or strategy or anything like that, you obviously you need to be good at what you do, but you need to be adaptable. But first and foremost, you need to find people who have the ability to adapt to different situations. They're
Yeah.
not they're not blaming the external environment, and it's very easy to weed out when you sit on interviews. You just role play different scenarios, or you ask them questions about their previous experience and how they dealt with different scenarios. Again, nothing groundbreaking from a hiring perspective. It's just common practices that are not being implemented, and you need to weed out. We need to weed out people who are um, either blaming everyone else but not themselves, who are slow at decision making, who are not taking responsibility, and who are not willing to problem solve. And if you can do that, everything else becomes way easier, and you can qualify talent way faster and better. So I would say there are 2 main components: is viewing yourself as a recruitment agency, or
Hmm.
at least having some sort of a recruitment engine
Yeah.
built in, and second, getting better at qualifying people.
Okay. Couple of clarifying questions on that. You mentioned firstly like a fractional person. By that, is that like a fractional HR person that comes into the business, or what did you mean
Mm.
by that?
Yeah, I would say HR. I would say somebody who is built teams, who's
Okay.
interviewed hundreds of. If they've interviewed at least 100 people, that's a good sign that it's somebody you can trust when it comes to listening to their advice.
So
Yeah.
it's like an external consultant that you'd go to for kind of advice.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I would say this is where, instead of hiring a recruiter, just hire somebody who hired a lot of different people
Yeah.
for a similar agency, pay them money to give you advice for how to hire and what to have in place. But do not go to a recruiter if you haven't dealt with recruiters.
Yeah. It can be a very painful process, eh?
Yeah.
The second kind of clarification point was just around your kind of process. Am I correct in saying, obviously, you've got kind of test tasks in there, you've got, conversational / fit interviews, technical interviews, and personality tests. Is there kind of anything else that you'd recommend in that hiring process?
Yeah. Use AI to help you check for your biases,
Okay.
and use AI to score your talent bench and your candidates.
Okay. Interesting.
It's very simple to do. You can start with, you don't have to build anything complex.
Mhm.
We've built, we started with just quite advanced prompts. We've built a bunch of advanced prompts that will help us to analyze the candidate call recordings
Mhm.
and check for our biases towards these people,
Yeah.
any of the limitations, their character. We call it like people reader. It
Yeah.
helps us also to align our sort of own intuition about the person with what the AI analysis gives us in terms of scoring and how much involvement or management that person would require if we would hire them or would bring them into the business. What does it mean for the founder? How much micromanagement or their time they need to involve for that person to level up to a certain level. So all we're looking for is the gap between where the person is in terms of their character, and that character is a set of, as I said, like their ability to solve and navigate through difficult times effectively without being a crying baby. And second, there's the technical skill set, whether depending obviously on the role that we're hiring for. And we're trying to understand that gap between, let's say, they're 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10, and trying to understand what that gap is, and whether we have the resources internally to help them
Mhm.
close the gap from 7 to, let's say, to 9 out of 10. And that would mean if we invest in that person over the next 3 to 6 months, so the 3-month onboarding period, and then the other 3 months of ramping up, like making sure that they actually take ownership and having performance reviews, that these investments will help us close that gap, and will it return, make us more money?
Okay. Once you've kind of made the decision, and you've got the person that you believe is the right fit, how do you go about kind of incentivizing them best?
Money, bonuses. You gotta build an incentive structure um, that is connected with your financial model. Like, you need to understand the basics of your P&L, and and then build a simple but also understandable incentive structure for your team.
Mhm.
One of the most common uh, strategies that we use when it comes to incentive structures is building profit pools. Essentially, you allocate an X amount of money from your profits towards your team. Different agencies decide on this, on how much money to allocate, depending on their internal goals. Some agencies, for example, I just spoke with someone, actually a very good friend of mine who runs who's a CEO at Carbon Box Media. And what they do is they've set themselves a goal to hit 85% profit margin, and then the distribution, anything that is above 75%, I believe, if not mistaken, it will be distributed to the team. You don't have to hit 75%. We've seen agencies doing that at 50%. Like 50% is more than enough for the
Yep.
founder to take away, let's say, excluding their salary, right? And then everything above the 50% is distributed across the team. Now, how you first of all communicate the profit pool and how you allocate is a different story. Some agencies do it on a monthly basis. and they find it the most effective because every single month the team is looking forward
Yeah.
to the bonus. Some do it on a quarterly basis, some do it twice a year.
Okay. And post kind of onboarding training. So let's say, you've got a probation period for 3 months, you've got kind of the ramping game plan and training during that. After that's done, what do you recommend for kind of ongoing training of talent?
So yeah, it's a great question. If you're sub 5 mil, right, let's say if you're sub 3, maybe 3 million a year, you will not have the resources and time to build proper L&D programs, and you you shouldn't even try. What you should do is do two things. Build an internal internal training program specifically where your best strategist, actually anyone on the team, comes in and teaches something.
Nice. Yeah.
They become the experts within the team. Well, obviously, what you will have to do sometimes, you have to face a little bit of insecurity from the team or lack of confidence, but it's your job as a leader, as a founder, to inspire confidence and to tell them, hey, we're in a psychologically safe space. You have to create that, right? You have to be willing to do the same what you're asking them to do. And the second thing is try to invite fractional specialists or consultants on ad hoc basis, especially from other agencies, practitioners who actually do something. They whether it's it doesn't matter what you do, strategy, ops, delivery,
Mm.
finance. Pay consultants to come and do workshops or master classes or whatever, and help your team build the skill set and the mindset that they need to do so. Once you cross maybe, let's say, 4 or 5 million a year, this is when you can start thinking about a more traditional L&D program. But again, you need to kind of be more mindful about the timing and how much time it takes, because
Yeah,
it will eat into your non-billable. Sorry, it will eat into your billable hours in the business.
for sure. Okay. I know we have massively overshot on time, and I want to say thank you, Romans, but the final question I have is on the board of directors. So you've mentioned here about, bringing on, consultants and kind of that stuff. And when we spoke before, you mentioned a board of directors. Can you just walk through your kind of thinking on this?
Yeah, so it's very good to have someone to have as a sounding board.
Yeah.
Uh, it's better be someone who is not your girlfriend or friends, who is not, and also look, another agency founder who is in a similar position, maybe not the best. It's good for, like, obviously, to kind of exchange data and like knowledge and experience. But it's better to be someone who down who we want to do. Again, we're sticking back to the practical guidance and advice. Ideally, somebody who knows how to do how to grow a business, who maybe exits or just build a great cash cow business, and if you can invite them to be your non-executive director, that is ideal. They know it doesn't have to be very often, maybe monthly, bi-monthly basis, where you sit down and you go through the strategy. They help you to think outside of your own day-to-day vision, right? Because a lot of times we have the horse blinkers on us, and
Yeah,
we just focus too much on what's happening inside. And that person's perspective should help you elevate your vision. It's like, hey, what am I actually doing in the business? Again, going back to the very fundamental principles. But definitely having that to sit on your board and help you navigate through different challenges. Right now, the best ones are the ones who understand AI or
Mhm.
who've implemented AI in other businesses, and they can have a little bit of wider view or longer view of what's happening. Obviously, no one can predict what's going to happen in the next 3 months. It's kind of crazy, but having somebody who understands it is quite valuable.
For sure. Okay. Romans, insane amount of knowledge shared, and also thank you for going through your story, because that is very cool, and it's good to see you kind of where you are today. So thank you
Yeah.
for coming on. For people that want to get in touch, find out more about you, where should they go? And I know you've covered it a few times, but what type of businesses do you work with, and just briefly, how do you help them?
Yeah, so if you're an agency making anywhere between 700K to 5 million a year, if you're in D2C or B2B, then if you'd like to explore what it takes to work with us, or you just want to try to have a conversation about your business, your ops, AI, and either how to become AI native or how to extract yourself from day to day, then you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Romans Ivanovs. You're not going to miss it. I'm probably the only one who's got that name. Or you can go on X, also Romans Ivanovs, and shoot me a message. And yeah, we can hop in a call. Again, I'm not that salesy. I'll try to help as much as possible.
I can verify that. Will always drop knowledge, and also does some very good dinners and events, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, if you happen to be in London, I don't know when this interview comes out, but at the end of May, we're hosting an agency dinner in London. We're trying to do one in Dubai, but sadly, um,
Pending.
when we try to organize it, all the events happened and we had to cancel it. But if you happen to be in London, or if you want to come to any of our dinners, we're going to be running them in the US as well, in New York and Miami, and we'll be back in Dubai in October in 2026. Come over, they're great. You'll meet amazing founders, entrepreneurs. We'll have also guest speakers and roundtables, so it's a lot of fun.
For sure. Romans, thanks again.
Cheers. Thank you so much for having me.